Hi, welcome to another episode of the Weekly Brunch. I'm sorry, I'm having problems with my eye right now. It just happened right before I went live. I do apologize. There we go. There we go. Now, before I get into the topic at hand, and it's going to be probably a brief topic, we'll see where we go. Um, I want to make it clear that this is my opinion. This is from my experience, and I'm just sharing with you. Now, the main topic. What are you consuming? What are you consuming? And I'm not talking about food. I'm talking about what you're consuming with your mind. Now, we are in a now I'm Generation X. Never hit that. I'm an older person. May not look it, but yes, I am older in age. So I grew up at a time where we didn't have social media. Social media that didn't even exist, let alone the internet. Yes, I lived at a time where we did not have the internet. We had a version of the internet, but it was not the internet as we know today. If you wanted information, you went to the library and you did your research, or sometimes you had to write letters to people who were a subject matter expert on depending on what you were doing your research on. But in today's society, we have social media. Everything is ready for you at your fingertips. People have Facebook, YouTube, X, which is probably you're watching me on one of these things, or they have Instagram, they have Substack. I mean, it's an endless list of where you get information. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, what are you consuming? Now, depending on who you are, what you're watching it all depends on the algorithm. But if you've chosen to reclaim your spirituality and do a lot of self-help, you have to ask yourself, are you what you're consuming online counteractive to your goal? Let me explain. Um, Now, I already decided to do this topic prior to the events that happened yesterday. So I'm on X. You can follow me on X if you're not following me there as the Loon, and you can find me at the Loon 50. I think 50. I change it by my age. Sorry. So if you were on social media, a lot of your consumption had to do with what happened in the Middle East. Now, whether you saw positive reactions to it or negative reactions to it, depending on your algorithm. Your algorithm chooses what you will see, but does it? What you see does depend on the algorithm, but who dictates that algorithm? You do. You may be thinking, I don't dictate, it just comes up. I've had this happen to me, and some people have mentioned, hey, all I have to do sometimes is go on Google and Google something, and next thing I know, my algorithm has everything to do with that. Yes, that does, but that's just a minute thing. When it comes to these pages, your algorithm depends on your clicks, your likes, and your subscription. What do I mean? You're going through, let's use Facebook, for example. You're going through Facebook and you are looking for a particular recipe. And then you do a search, you find the recipe, and you make your little dish. And after you make the dish, you realize next time you come to Facebook, you have a whole lot of suggestions on different recipes. Some of them may be close to it. Let's say you were looking for a dinner. You have dinner recipes, or if you're doing desserts, you have dessert recipes, or even better, bread recipes. You go down that rabbit hole. That is your algorithm. And your algorithm changed because you clicked and did a search on a particular topic, and now you're being fed that topic. If you Now that's the clicks, the likes. You're going through and your friend on Facebook posts something that you agree with, you like. So you hit like. Guess what? Anything to do with that topic is going to come up into your algorithm. And then on YouTube, for the sake of YouTube, is if you subscribe to someone, you will get similar things. Now, this has happened to me because I am also a writer. Those of you who have followed me prior to this YouTube channel knows I'm a blogger. You know, I'm an author. So I've been researching on YouTube topics that have to do with writing better. I want to put the best product out there, and everybody has an opinion, and some of them are good and some of them are not. So go ahead and I'll take a look at it. Well, for the last 3 weeks, well, up until last week, for the last month, I've been getting nothing but how to be a better writer, how to journal. Everything that has to do with writing was coming through my algorithm. I chose to consume that, and the algorithmic gods of YouTube in this case, but it could be any social media that you partake in, has decided that I need everything they have on that topic. Why am I bringing this up? Because you can adjust your algorithm. I'm also big on watching news. It does not mean I want to know everything that happens in the news. And it could be very upsetting. I want a zen, positive, calm surrounding, which also means my social media surroundings. But if I click on something on the news, if I like, if I share, if I subscribe to someone who's news heavy, I'm going to get that information. I am conscious of this. I am aware of this. And when I don't want to, which at one point, there was a point where I didn't want to get any news. I didn't want to hear any news. And I started clicking on more, how could I say, self-empowerment things. And to tell you the truth, the last 2 weeks, my ex profile has been filled. If you follow my posts, you see I have been reposting more of stuff that's more self-involved. And that was me taking control of my algorithm. Yesterday was a fluke. I'm sorry. If you were on X, there was no way you could avoid what was going on. And depending on how invested you were clicking, liking, or commenting left and right. But just so you know, you are telling the algorithm, this is what I want to see. This is why I'm asking you, what are you consuming? I've recently attempted to take up the hobby of needlepoint. And at one point, that's all my algorithm had was needlepoint, crochet, anything to do with crafts. I got no news for about a week. No news came up unless I subscribed to a person who had that news. And if I did not click on it, it did not come. Now, I'm sharing this to let you know. You have to be aware, one, of what you are consuming when you're online. Two, how it is affecting you. If you're seeing yourself getting depressed, and granted, yes, we are coming out of the dark part of the year, but it's still a little darker. It's still not as bright as we want to. So if you don't want to have the doom and gloom things that we see on a daily basis, or you may experience on a daily basis, consume your social media line, you may want to change your algorithm a little. Click on that picture. Click on that cute, funny video that you saw that's non-political and just for fun. That's non-violent. You can choose what you have coming through the algorithm. But don't keep yourself in an echo chamber. I know this is a term many of you have heard. The echo chamber is basically being in an environment or getting reinforcement of things that you believe in, that you want to stay close to with no challenges. Is unrealistic. Hence why we have a lot of people who live in fantasy world. I'm not going to get into that, but a lot of people don't understand that other people have opinions. But you can choose what influence you and what you consume. I'm not saying, because especially if you're on X, Facebook, YouTube, they do have guidelines, but X is a little bit more the wild, wild west. I've seen the unaliving of people in manners and unexpectedly in where it shook me. I know I'm ex-military, it shouldn't shake me, but at this age, you would hope that we've evolved enough. I hope that we would evolve enough where such things wouldn't be glorified or just nonchalant. Yes, X does have a graphic warning sometimes on some of them. But sometimes it's just missed. So I don't like to consume stuff like that. That's my personal preference. I'm on a spiritual path. You're on the spiritual path with me. You're on this path of personal growth. But I forgot her name. I love the movie Fifth Element. And it's not the first movie to take this premise. But when it came time for the main character, which Mila played, and I might be saying her name incorrectly, it was a moment of doubt there because she went through our entire history and then she hit W. We know what W is. W is war. War is not pretty. War is ugly. War is the worst of the worst parts of humanity at times. There are some highlights where humanity did shine during there, but we won't get into that. And there was a time where she was like, you're not worth saving with this. We don't want, as we go through our journey, to see images that make us say, I have doubt in humanity. Are we worth saving? We are worth saving no matter what. We are children at this point, trying to find our way. And children could be mean. You just go, if you have children and you just go and you watch them playing and interacting with each other, yeah, they'll throw a punch because they got mad and they threw a temper tantrum. But that doesn't mean we're not worth saving. That also means I don't want to see the worst of our worst. I am aware that they're there. I don't want it in my face. And I want my algorithm, my social media intake to support my spiritual growth. Now, if you follow me on X, you know sometimes I do get political, but I don't shove it down people's face. I'll share here and there. To me, that's what I do. But I protect my space. I have my boundaries. So why don't we have those boundaries on social media? You can. You can have those boundaries on social media. How do you do that? You could block those that keep coming up on your feed that are completely negative. Now, when it comes to Facebook, what you may need to do, because on 9 times out of 10, my Facebook is private outside of my author page. So If your Facebook is in private, you may want to make it private. But most of the people who have been on Facebook as long as I have been on Facebook, we're on Facebook for family, friends, and ex-military people, people that we know. So I'm going to give a suggestion, but in Facebook, I feel on Facebook, you're going to have to do something different, like reach out to the person and say, hey, I understand you could show your post, but this and this and this and this. And if you don't agree, and hopefully it doesn't cause a rift, you could put them in a special box. I've had one or two people I had a talk with, and they were like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to put you in a special block, in a special group, which you could do on Facebook. And I'm going to choose when to go to your page and check out what's going on with you and interact with you there, because I'm not going to infringe on your freedom of speech, but I'm not going to be subjected to anything that's counterproductive for me. On the other ones, there's something called a block. I have no problem blocking people. I have no problem blocking stuff that comes on my pages that I don't want to be subjected to. You are not held hostage by the algorithm. You could change it. You could set your boundaries. And actually, that's what the algorithm is supposed to do. It's supposed to follow your boundaries, and that's why you get stuff repeatedly. Also, this is not something I really like, but it's also hitting the thumbs down button or something like that. Or I think Facebook has this. I'm not sure if X has it, but I know Facebook has it and Instagram has it, where you could see less of a particular topic. It could keep you on track of keeping your anxiety, your pressure, what bothers you, what sets you off, what triggers you at bay. And I realized this when certain files came out recently. It was a bit much. And I didn't want to subject myself to that. And a lot of people don't want to subject themselves to it. And you don't have to. I don't have to subject myself to the fighting scenes, and nor do you. So you have to ask yourself, what are you consuming when you go on social media? How is it affecting you? Is it derailing your progress on your personal or spiritual growth? It's all about what you consume. And I have an idea, which I've actually started seeing. Again, I say I'm an author. I'm also an avid reader, which is something that's not popular anymore, which we need to bring it on back, because I realized yesterday a lot of people are very uneducated on a lot of topics. If you want to stay on track and consume information, you could turn off your phone. You could put it aside for a moment and actually pick up a book. I was watching and I meant to save it and I didn't. I do apologize. If I come across it again, I will tag it in the description on this particular video. A young gentleman, and when I mean I consider him a baby because he's in his early 20s. A young gentleman, and I believe he's from New York. The background looked like it was from New York, and he was on his way to his public library. 20 something, on the way to the public library, which is free, to take out books to read. We spend so much time consuming what other people's opinions and misinformation or valid information online is, that we're not watching what we consume. Going to your local library is free. You don't have to purchase the book. You have the book, unless it changed since I was a kid. Yes. It would be 2 weeks to read a book. Turn off the TV, turn off the internet for a while, and open a book. You are in control of what you consume. I found a self-help book, I think it was The Power of Me, from the library years, okay, almost a decade ago. And it changed my viewpoint of how I move towards spiritually. And it changed how I view how I move as a person while interacting with people. So this week, we are all stuck on our phones, in social media, in media altogether. So let's start small. This week, let's go ahead and ask yourself, take note of what you're consuming as you're scrolling up and down. Ask yourself, is this helping me on my ultimate goal, whether professional or personal? And if it's not, what can you do to adjust? The library is free. To go take out a book, they have decent hours. What's the last book you read? What's the last book you consumed? Just think about that. What are you consuming? Because that affects your goal, your progress, whether professionally or personally or spiritually. And just add that to your mindfulness as you go through your day. Okay? So that's what we're going to focus on this week. See if you could change your algorithm. Do a search on something positive, artwork, crafts, something you're interested in, your spiritual path that you choose to go to, if you want to see more of that. And take note and see if it changes your algorithm. See if it changes what you see and you consume. And that's what we have for this week. It's a little bit longer. I actually thought this was going to be a 10-minute talk. Sorry about that. But it is very important to see what you consume, not just food wise, because we're very food conscious at this point. Whether you're a vegetarian, vegan, carnivore, organic type of person, but not many people are focusing on what they consume with their minds, because it does affect you, and it could affect you positively or negatively. It's up to you. So I like to say, I'm like to leave it on that note. Take care of what you consume um, on your social media, on your phone, and think about opening a book. I have a couple of book reviews I'm working on right now. I don't know when I'll be able to post them, but keep an eye out on that. It might be a topic or a subject that you like. Until next week, I hopefully will have a special guest. We couldn't do it this week. It turned out to be a little chaotic, but I'll have something to help hopefully feed your mind and feed your curiosity. Until next week, I'll see you. Have a beautiful week.